you.
It's nice to see you.
You're still gorgeous, aren't you?
Well,
Well, beautiful.
yes.
Do you look back at that and think, wow, that's fantastic? Because I was just saying, you were way ahead of your time, really, weren't you?
That's my trouble.
Yeah, you see.
I'd love to be on the button, but I'm always there just before.
Well, you must have been on the button at some time. You know, you had all those hits, and you were very, very cool and chic, weren't you?
And what we saw there, that clip, that was actually from your own show, the Sandie Shaw supplement. And at that time, not only was it not necessarily that common for a woman to have her own show, but it was more of a magazine-type show, which is fairly commonplace now, but it wasn't then.
Yeah, I was trying to make a show that was like a concept album. Because usually just people just stood up and sang, and then they introduced the comedian and everything else. But I sort of got subjects like love and sex or money, and did a whole programme around it.
And were you allowed to discuss that on TV in those days?
No, I just could sing about it.
Looking back on those times nostalgically, like we've been talking about, looking back on the 70s and, you know...
Yes and no. I felt that there was far less freedom in those days than there is now, and I much prefer it now. No, I've got...
That's interesting you say that, though. Do you really think that?
Oh, absolutely.
In what way?
Well, I was always on my own with loads of men around me.
Sounds hellish.
They would never dream of having like a load of women on the show together. And to have a woman topping, they would, you know, topping a big show. It was like unheard of, and we had to really fight to get that.
So were you one of the first? Because I know Silly used to have her own show. Lulu had a show. Were you one of the first women to do that? Fantastic.
And would you say now, I mean, obviously there's some amazing female artists now, like Duffy and Amy Winehouse or whatever. Would you say that they have an easier time of it now than you did then? Or is it just different?
It's different, yeah. I think they have much more pressure than I did. I had days off where I could go down King's Road and Chelsea and stuff. So I had days off to frolic. But they didn't
and it didn't get reported like it does nowadays. That kind of
that must have been
freedom.
awful. If everything that I'd ever done was on camera or on... Oh, God.
So when you first started, though, having said that, was it very difficult to get into the music business then, being a woman then?
Yeah.
So you
because
struggled?
it was just blokes in bands, and that's all they were interested in. And I couldn't actually get a record contract when I first started. And so Adam Faith, who discovered me, decided that we'd make our own records. He said, "Come on, girl, we can do this." And so, great. So, because of that, I've always been really independent.
Right.
And I think I'm probably the only woman, one of the only artists from that time that actually owns all their own records.
Really? Well, everybody at that... well, I was going to say at that time, but most people generally have some sort of trademark, and yours was the bare feet. Was that done in any sort of ironic way, or did you just have sore feet and didn't like wearing shoes?
Some of that, but I've got big feet. Well, big-ish.
Oh, I remember you saying that on a programme. I think it's a size 8 or something.
A size 8, but, you know, I'm 5'9", right barefoot, so it's kind of in proportion. But so I could never get shoes to fit me. Okay. Also, I always used to fancy myself a bit of a hippie or a beatnik or something like that, you know? And it's like a mindset. It's not like freedom of, you know, wandering around with no shoes on. It's kind of fun. I still, you know,
But it was a good gimmick, though, wasn't it?
I got these great shoes for you today, though, these ones.
Oh, yeah. See? Now you can walk in shoes.
I've had my feet done.
I had an operation
when I was
you were 60.
When I was 60, I thought, I don't want a facelift, but I'd really like to get my feet sorted out. Well, when they were designing me, they kind of started up here and they went all the way down to my ankles, and then they had a tea break. And so I'm okay from the ankles up, but from the...
You just didn't like the look of your feet,
Oh,
were they funny?
horrid.
Oh,
It
really?
reminds me about you. I always think of you, Puppet on a String Eurovision Song Contest, you know, and that, you know, I grew up and I love 60s music, and that to me was, you know, Sandie Shaw, the epitome of Sandie Shaw. You hated the Eurovision, didn't you?
Well, yeah, because I was cool. And it wasn't cool. It was kind of family entertainment. But I tell you what, whatever it was then, it's not as bad as it is now. No. I mean, isn't it naff? Yeah. I mean, That's the only thing you can say about it.
Is that one of the reasons you decided to leave the music industry? Just, you know, rather than carry on maybe doing something you weren't comfortable with?
I got a bit bored. And also, as you get older, you discover more things about yourself. Yeah. And I discovered I had a brain.
Yeah, well, no, I'm still waiting to discover that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's it.
And are you now... Because you went back to university, didn't you, and got your degree. What are you doing now?
I run a clinic, the Arts Clinic. You've heard of that, surely?
I haven't, sorry.
OK. Well, it's the Arts Clinic.
I was going to pretend then I had, but...
I've done it for about 10 or 15 years now, where I run a bunch of psychotherapists and psychologists and for people all in the creative industries, not just the artists who are up front, but the people behind the scenes, because it's incredibly stressful. And I think we should look after ourselves and to make sure that you get the best possible treatment rather than go to some quack up the road.
And also someone who understands the industry that they're in, because a psychotherapist
it's
wouldn't
not
necessarily
actually
understand.
necessary, because I can pass that on to the psychologists, like the other ones that work there, to show them what the environments are and what the particular pressures are. But you have to be really good at your job. And you have to understand about things like boundaries, because artists are terrible. They just go right over everybody's boundaries, and everybody gets caught in their glamour. And so unless you actually understand that, even the therapist can go a bit awry. And they do.
Yeah. But are you actually going to perform again? Oh, you are then? It sounds like it.
I just did... there's a couple of things that I'm interested in this year. One is... I've just been in recording studios with David Arnold.
Oh, fabulous.
And he's the guy that does all those Bond movies.
Yes.
And I did it so that it's for a theme track, the theme music of a film called Made in Dagenham. Brackets, We Want Sex. But it's nothing to do with that. It's to do with 1968, when the Equality of Pay Act came through. It was about the big... You know, all the women got together in Fords and they said, we should have equal pay. And it's a really funny, really sad... I mean, I was just crying all the way through it with laughter and with sadness. And came out and they said, well, will you do the theme song? And I said, oh, please.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, and the other thing nice about getting older is that when I went in the studio, people are reverent.
Yeah, which is nice. You're also going to be taking part in the Vintage Festival at Goodwood in August, is that right?
I'm going to be a curator.
OK.
Which is a posh word, I think, for a producer.
Kind of an organiser. Do you know, Sandie, I'm so sorry we've run out of time, because I feel like we're just getting warmed up here. Please come on again.
I can come on again, probably in August, and I'll tell you more about it.
Great. It's Sandie Shaw, everyone.